Good to go? Is that what that red light means? All right, so I won't have to ask in the future. Okay, it is 5:30 and time to call our regular council meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here, would you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is our opportunity for anyone from the public to address the council, subject to the ordinances listed there on the agenda, 3128 and 3124. Would anybody like to address the council this evening? All right, item number 4 is our consent agenda. There's 2 items, one invoice and the approval of the minutes from the last council meeting. Anybody on the council want either of those voted upon separately? Anybody from our visitor or audience want either of those items made with a separate vote? Okay, hearing no objection, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion of items A or B? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under new business, street department, we've got A and B and a host of things there, Commissioner Webb, looks like.
Yeah. Before I make a motion on that 5A, I'm going to kind of read through some of this. And Doug, if I get this wrong, call me out. So, but we're looking at, this is our equipment purchases. We're jumping right on it real quick here in the FY26. So X-Mark 60-inch zero-turn mower, $14,900. That's a little tractor, right? Yeah. Then the next item is a T66 T4 Bobcat compact loader for $959.06. That's from Bobcat of Marion. And then a road laser, $63,255 from Ray Products. An F-250, $47,423 from Jim Hayes Incorporated. Snowplow, actually 2 snowplows, is that correct? Yeah. For the F-250s, kind of help us in some of the cul-de-sacs and tighter radius areas that we can get into with those. And those are $26,992 for both of those. And that's a grand total of $217,529.06. As far as trade-ins, we are trading in an older Bobcat. I think it's a 99, and they're giving us a $9,500 trade-in value on that. So that's the only trade-in on all those items. And we did use competitive bids through Sourcewell, so we're covered there. So with all that, I would make a motion to approve FY26 equipment purchases, which are all budgeted items.
I would second that motion.
Doug, on the 2 snowplows, I know one's for the new truck, right?
That's for the lead-in trucks because they're already put weight wide for a snowplow, so we're just going to put a snowplow on to help us with these small cul-de-sacs.
Okay.
One for a Dodge, one for a Ford, right? Question I had on the Bobcat purchase, it looks like the initial price included a warranty of 2 years or 2,000 hours, whichever occurs first. And then we've got an add-on of $1,500 for a 60-month, 2,000-hour full extended warranty. Is there a difference there? I mean, once we hit 2,000, the years don't matter, right?
One is for mechanical and one is the full bumper-to-bumper.
Okay. Okay, that was the 60-month. Okay.
Everything new has a lot of electronics on the board.
Okay. Just checking.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. 5B, Doug, I guess really is your department, so you want to talk about that? one?
Yeah, we contacted several banks, right? Four or five. First Southern was the apparent low bidder. We wanted to finance the basically purchase price of these items that we just went over, $217,530, not to exceed amount, for a term of 5 years, interest rate at 2.65. So I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
Do you need a motion?
Should I read that? Yeah.
Yeah, would you mind?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 4042, authorizing the city to enter into a loan agreement with First Southern Bank to purchase street department equipment.
I'll second. Sorry.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 6, also Doug?
I'm going to defer to Lance here for our firefighter pension fund and police pension fund.
The statute requires us to report the ins and outs of the fire pension and police pension funds. Essentially, we're just showing that we've collected $1,376,820 of sales tax revenue to fund their pensions, and we've collected $322,583.03 from employee withholdings, and then we've turned that around and submitted it by year end. So we are essentially holding no funds that are due to the fire pension. Sorry, that's the police one. And then the fire pension fund, we've collected a total of $1,122,609 through sales tax revenue, and we've collected $197,382.29 through employee withholdings, and then we've essentially submitted all that to their pension funds, so they have control of all that money at this point, and the city has no control of any of it. Any questions?
That being said, I would make a motion to approve the firefighters pension fund and the police pension fund required reporting per 40 ILCS 5/3-141.
I would second that. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
The amount that we're paying here, the 1.699 and 1.32, is that the recommended from the pension system as to what we would pay or what we owed?
So we use our independent consultants, which has a little bit of a higher requirement.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what's, and that number will be different because it's split between the 2 fiscal years.
What we're paying though is a little higher than what the state had.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. The
I know
state,
they've
the
been that
state's
way the past
consultants.
few years, and I wanted to.
Yeah, state's consultants is a little bit lower than our independent
Yeah.
consultants.
Okay.
Any first and second? Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 7A, there was a application for a special use permit on the listed addresses, I guess, here in the industrial park to operate a towing, recovery, and impound business. That's Vernell's Interstate Service. Is there anybody here from the public that's wanting to speak to that issue? Okay. Seeing your...
They are going to have a...
Oh, you are? Okay.
They are going to have a fence around the impound yard.
Yes, so let me find that so I'm not reading it wrong.
10 foot is what I
It's a
remember.
10-foot industrial privacy fence around the area. I think that's required by our code, if I'm not mistaken. I know a fence is, I'm not sure. It is 10 feet, I think, so they are complying with that. Do you have any other questions on that? Okay, zoning board approved the special, or recommended to approve the special use permit and therefore it's before us. So I'll make the motion to approve the zoning board's approval of a special use permit at 3305 Water Tower Road and 800 North Skyline Drive, Marion, parcels 06-16-200-021 and 06-16-200-048 to operate a towing, recovery, and impound business in an industrial zone by Vernell's Interstate Service.
I second that.
Any questions, further comment?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the application, and maybe it's because I'm old, but the owner name says Roof Bolt Express and the applicant name is Vernell's.
I think I can explain that. I think the Vernell's is looking to buy the property.
Already closed, my understanding.
Okay, so I guess in March, when they applied for this, our system pulls up the property owner based on those pins, I believe, or we typed it in there because at that moment in time, it was owned by Roof Bolt Express. But
Okay, so the fence will basically go around what is now the Roof Bolt place and where?
No, it's going to go north of the disposal place.
Well, that zoning map that was in our packet.
Roof bolts on the east side of that road.
So here is using, this is where Republic's
Right.
store is.
Right.
Or businesses. So these two pins are what encompass that, the application, so it's around
Okay.
that. So all of this from this line. Yeah. Got it.
does that answer your question, Doug, or do you have more?
It does, but I was quickly looking back through some other information that I had.
Yes,
I have a question. Where exactly is the in-town fencing going to be on that entire property?
I don't know that we have that information directly, but I'm assuming, so take this information for what it's worth, that it'll just be the parcel closest to the Skyline Drive. Can I show you this map? Sure.
Cody, I think it's the proposed, what's labeled as proposed impound on our map.
Yeah, so, the section up next to Skyline? Parcel, easternmost parcel, so it would be the entire two parcels. Is it gonna take in both of these parcels?
So they're going to encompass everything that was bought is going to be fenced in. Well, yeah, I was interested because I own this property right here. So, I own right next to the
Which one do you own, sir? Which one?
3306 Water Tower.
I own my property with Dutch operating engineer.
Right here.
I'm across the road, but there will be a fence then, right straight across the street from us.
And what's being described to you is on our map, on the label says proposed impound, and it bridges both of those parcels of property, so that's
So
consistent.
The whole thing's gonna be
That's my understanding.
What's that? Personally, actually, I'm really right across the street from the white building that's next, that he's buying, exactly.
Their application says that the fence will be around the area needed for the impound area. Part of it's gonna be office area.
Okay. Can you look in iWork and see if they, by chance, that didn't print, that they submitted a map?
In the meeting notes from the zoning board, it says the 10-foot fence will not cover the entire perimeter. It will only be on the south side of the property. I'm a little confused on everything. Well, and then it goes on to mention the property behind Home Depot, and we're kind of not in that area of the world.
That's just referencing the current location.
Huh?
That's just referencing the current location of it.
Yeah, this part says the 10-foot fence will not cover the entire perimeter. It will only be on the south side of the property.
That's not what
Property
their
behind
application says. I don't believe those minutes to be true, because the conversations I've had with the folks, as well as the email that's also in your packet from the developer, has said that they will be surrounding the entire impound area.
That's what it says.
Which is what's required by our code. So we will not grant them occupancy if they do not comply with that portion of our code.
Is there anything in our code that says, references the maintenance of that fence after it's put up? I don't think it does. I think it just says to put it up.
But they have to maintain a 10-foot fence. I don't think it defines maintain, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's our code.
So question, if I could, so is it gonna be the entire property or just the south side?
What we're gathering is that our code requires them to do the perimeter, the entire perimeter.
So both parcels that were sold will be totally encapsulated with a privacy 10-foot tall fence.
Well, that's what we're trying to ascertain here.
I don't think the buildings are required to be in
You don't think?
It just says all vehicles, parts, and equipment shall be stored within a enclosed structure or within an area secured by a fence.
Yeah.
So a building, like an office building, would not have to be enclosed by a fence.
Right. It would be just the impound area.
Just the impound area or where any vehicles or vehicle parts are stored.
Okay. Cody, do you have a number where you could excuse yourself and call them and get a definitive answer? Did you have a comment?
No, sir, I didn't know when he was gonna talk, I was gonna say if you can.
Oh.
Turn the mic, that's all. That was good information, you just heard.
So the business that you own is at 3306, correct? So the building southeast of you, which is the skinnier lot, yeah,
Across the street.
yeah. What type of building is that?
I don't know southeast, straight across the street from me is about 100 building, and it's white. And then there's two blue buildings that roof will run out of.
Two blue buildings are to the east of the white building,
Yes.
and on that,
Two
and on,
that are real close together.
yeah,
And then the white one is directly across the street from me.
okay. So which one is the impound? Do we know that? 3305, is it?
What's labeled on our map is both of those parcels.
Yeah.
My guess is they're gonna use that, what it said, that back building as an office. And I bet you the impound, they'll probably fence directly north to Water Tower and directly south down from that building, and use the building as part of the impound. That's what I would see it happening, and then the rest of that would just all be impound.
At the other meeting, I thought they said they were going to fence in the south side of the property only.
Well, that's what the notes say, but it seems to be a disagreement on what our code requires of them, which may have been what's communicated. What are you reading there, Wendy?
As far as what's part of the fence,
Yep.
it is all
That's 3306.
So it says, all vehicles, parts, and equipment shall be stored within a completely enclosed structure or within an area screened by a wall or solid fence of at least 10 feet high. So that is just vehicles, parts, and equipment. So buildings, office buildings do not have to be surrounded by the fence.
So the
Only
question
any-
really is where is the part of the property they're planning on using for that purpose?
Correct.
Okay, well, let's see if Cody can get a hold of them here at dinner time and see what their understanding was, so that we're,
Mr. Williams, that there appears to be a loading dock on the other side, some type of loading dock facility.
On the other side of,
Come up here just a second. Here's your building, right?
no, that's operating engineers.
Okay.
That's, they, operating engineers on both of those. That's the hall, and then this is the building that they used to sell line supplies, and then Gary Mayer owned it, and he ended up selling it to 318.
This is
That's
your
my
building.
building.
Okay. So then across the street,
That is,
that's the first building?
that's the first building, and there's the other two.
Okay.
Loading dock.
That loading dock got took out, 318 filled it in. and
Okay, so there's not a
There,
loading
no,
dock.
and that's where the line supply
Gotcha.
place used to be back in the day, back in the late 80s, early
So
90s.
that's you right there?
Yeah, now I'm right next to Follow Wills, right there, that's them,
Okay.
that's me.
Anything.
I got you.
And then straight across the street is that white building.
Follow Will is east of your building.
Yes, right next door. It used to be mine also, but
That's them over there. Back there.
I was told that the impound yard was going to be
See why?
running with commercial and then on the south side of the two blue buildings.
So this is the first building there, and this is there.
And the third, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think they're gonna run offices out of that first building. I'm just trying to see what's going on, then just across the street.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
no answer. Okay. Can we get back to you definitively on where they're planning on the fence? I hate to leave that hanging on your part, but,
I'm just here for information.
okay.
I think we can agree that the fence will be around whichever parcel it is. It will hide any
Well, that's obviously the purpose of it.
vehicles, yeah.
Right, so parcels, whatever part of the parcels are where
Right.
their impound is, this needs to be fenced in. That's what, is that what you read the code says, right? Okay. Any other comments or questions on this? First and second, right? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
No.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 7B, Cody or Wendy, do you want to walk us through this?
So this was something that was brought to me by our codes office. Obviously, we have a lot of vacant properties in Marion, and this is just kind of a way to help keep track. A lot of times those vacant properties tend to be used by squatters. The longer they're vacant, the more deteriorated they become. There's a lot of issues with trying to keep them secure. So trying to track some of these properties would make it a lot easier. A lot of municipalities do these vacant property registrations. This is something that's been recommended to us for a while, and our codes office has been wanting to initiate this. So this is the ordinance that we put together.
So a quick question, they wouldn't have to register, they would register after 6 months of non-service, is that the way I read this? Or is it, it's not immediately when something goes vacant, like let's say they have a property and they're trying to rent it or they're trying to sell it. This is stating that vacant building says has not had regular water service for 6 months or more.
Correct.
Okay.
Wendy, what would you say that the outcome, and we've got several things listed here as the motion itself, for example, providing procedures related to incentives, maintenance, marketing, and annual inspection. Can you walk us through what the outcome, what the goal is relative to some of those things? Why are we providing any incentive? For example, the waiver of liens that we might have and things like that, if they get the property for sale and get it sold and that kind of thing. What are we trying to get the outcome here to be?
So I think the goal here is just movement. Obviously, we don't want vacant properties to just sit with nothing happening, because that's when it does lead to further deterioration of the properties. It brings down the value of neighboring properties. There's squatters and crime that occur at these empty houses. Police are often called to a lot of these houses for various reasons. So we want to cut down on the number of these vacant properties. So we're trying to encourage the owners of these properties to do something with them, either renovate them, sell them, demolish them, whatever it takes, depending on the current condition of the property, to do something with it so that it can move in a progressive fashion towards being a valued piece of property in the community again.
So maybe as an example, if we're having a conversation with those property owners, and some of the problem is we don't know we can't find the property owners in some of these cases.
That is correct.
That's been a huge problem.
We have some properties, the current registered owners are deceased.
Yep.
So trying to track down heirs, things like that, it's been tricky for the codes department.
So from my standpoint, I'll give you the opportunity to tell me if this is valid or not in your mind, how this might work when we talk about incentives and things. I'm hoping that these conversations, once we know where the property is, who owns it, who's in control over it, that there might be an opportunity that we could use TIF incentives or other economic incentives to spur something to happen. Whereas right now, there's just seemingly structure after structure when you really get to looking that is just there. It's nothing happening. And in effect, what happens is the grass grows tall and we end up mowing it. We slap a lien on it. Lather, rinse, repeat every year. And so that's one example that I see. That's not explicitly talked about in the ordinance, but I'm hoping that would be an outcome, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Of just having knowledge in a conversation with somebody. Okay.
I have a question. We've got a section here where it says the city fire chief's authorized to enter and to inspect or cause to be inspected all vacant buildings. If he finds one that is unsafe, I've seen a few of those in town, and I don't know that I would even want to walk into them. Is this going to give us teeth then to require it to be demolished?
Yeah, that's a whole nother process.
Yeah, that's a completely another process, but this is a tool that could be used to help in that process, but this in and of itself would not replace the demolition process.
And my understanding where we're starting with this is properties that do not currently have water services, that we're going to mail something to those property owners. That's our start, so
Correct.
to speak.
So it's my
trying to find
understanding
them.
the water office has already prepared a report for the codes office with a list of all the properties that have not had active water service for 6 months or more. Obviously, the codes is going to have to go through that. I'm sure some of those may be properties that have been torn down or other various issues. So they're going to go through that list, determine which of those properties do fall under this registration requirement, and then put together letters to be sent out.
Okay. Any questions here?
It's a great first step.
Yeah.
Somebody like to read that motion?
Sure. I'd make a motion that we approve ordinance 4040, requiring the registration of vacant buildings and properties and providing procedures related to incentives, maintenance, marketing, and annual inspections.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under item 8, A, you may recall I think the last meeting we approved a resolution to sell some property in the industrial park. I believe Wendy subsequently determined we need to do that in ordinance form is that just for the benefit of the party that's buying it, or we just should have done it that way in the first place? Probably should have done it that way in the first place?
Statute requires it by ordinance unless
Okay.
the company prior to filing the ordinance.
Okay, so we've already approved this in substance, but again, by way of review, we're selling 2 different pens to Banterra Bank for $100,000. It's about 13 acres, I think, in total. Is it listed here? Acreage. That's plus or minus. That's about what it is. And that's my motion to approve ordinance 4039, authorizing the sale of property in the industrial park.
Second that.
Any questions? Again? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8B, as you guys will recall, we reauthorized the TIF grant allocation, and now we're off to the races, it looks like, with a whole slew of projects. Is this right? $310,000 worth of applications just already? We're 2 weeks into the budget year? Okay. Looks like to be about
150 in granted amounts, another 300 in total project costs.
right. Yeah, I should have said it that way. Thank you. So you've got a list of those there in your packet. Looks to be about 25 or so in this round. Is that about right, Cody? They're not numbered, but ish. Is there?
Will we get further detail on this as to what they're doing? I know
Yeah.
usually it says porch, paint, roof.
Yes, so last year we were tracking everything in a Google Doc, which was easy to fill in those things. This year, since we moved the platform online to an online software application, still working through the reports that can run. All the data's in the system, but they don't have a report where I can create just yet. About half of this report was done manually, so I will get that on there for next time. So working out some
Anything
things.
outside the norm that we've
No,
seen
no,
here?
all of these have been reviewed by Jennifer and I. They're all qualifying things that we saw last year. You know, siding, roofs. The majority of these, I would say, are probably roof projects.
Any trees in here?
Planting, no. No. There are some tree removals, but no plantings, so.
Okay, it's my motion to approve the 31 listed fiscal year 26 TIF grant applications received through May 8th. So we're 1 week into the budget year and there's 31 of these for $149,280, 300 plus or minus $310,000 worth of project costs.
I second that.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item 9A, property was sold in Midway Court for taxes and offered to the city. And that's my motion to approve ordinance 4038, authorizing the purchase of 1138 Midway Court, PIN 0624327023 for $25,000 from Metro Lanes Incorporated. This might fit into, the school might be able to fit something in there. I haven't measured that out yet as we're building some new stuff in there, but this property will be a tear down. We'll have additional expense in tearing this property down on top of this, so please keep that in mind.
I'll second that.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Okay, item 9B. I would like to take a moment to explain what this is, how we got here briefly, and then I've got a guest that would like to speak to the council on this subject. So, and I'm going to take pains to try not to take any away from the comments you want to make, but if I step over on some of that, please forgive me. First became aware of, to be honest, the name of this substance and its derivatives probably just 6 or 8 weeks ago. I'd never heard of this before. Didn't really even know it existed. We had a tragic circumstance, which I'll let our guest explain, which really brought it to my attention, although at that particular point in time, I didn't know it was this substance that was particularly or specifically involved in that circumstance. But a first responder came to me, and the first time I heard this term is when a first responder came to me explaining the dangers of what they were seeing on the street with this substance and just how prevalent it was, and introduced me to the name Kratom, K-R-A-T-O-M. And I don't know if you guys run into stuff like this, but then once you see a term, then you see it all over the place. And I started noticing it in just location after location after location with banners. And I'm sure I saw that before, just didn't know what it was. And now I knew what it was. So I want to take a moment to introduce the public to what this is. And then we'll get into why I think it's particularly dangerous. The scientific name behind this is Mitragina speciosa. This is predominantly an unregulated psychoactive herbal substance I believe it is providing a growing danger inside of Marion, Illinois. There are multiple warnings from federal health agencies, but despite that, and despite the fact that several states, 22 of them I believe, have either introduced or enacted legislation regulating this substance, several municipalities in the state of Illinois have done so, it's still widely available. When this first responder came to me and explained it to me, the street name for this is gas station heroin. That's how it was introduced to me. And even after all the research that I've done, I think I keep falling right back to that, because the behaviors and the availability of it harkens back to the original, to me, the original days of when heroin started hitting the street. And its derivatives. It is very readily available at gas stations and convenience stores, vape shops, smoke shops here in the city. And it's marketed pretty innocently as an energy drink, energy supplement, mood booster, things like that. But it comes with a pretty harrowing reality of addiction, withdrawal, and in some tragic circumstances, death. I believe we need to act now by banning the sale of kratom and its derivatives, synthetic and otherwise, to prevent further tragedies. I do want to tell you that this is derived from a plant that's been around for maybe since the beginning of time, but certainly been harvested, if you will, I'm told, for hundreds of years in Southeast Asia, predominantly Thailand. The leaves contain mitragynine, and 7, I'm never going to get this word right, 7-hydroxymitragynine. In low doses, this acts as a stimulant, and high doses a sedative. It is not approved by the FDA for any medical use, and it is not legally marketed as a dietary supplement. Despite all this, it's still widely available. Kratom's effects, especially when used habitually or in very high doses, closely mirror those of opioids and have resulted in documented cases of addiction, organ failure, psychosis, and death. Now, there are competing bills in the Illinois State Legislature, one in the House of Representatives, one in the Senate. Both are not expected to pass this session. When I say competing, the Senate's bill contemplates banning this substance statewide. And that's exactly what I think ought to happen, because no matter what we do or don't do tonight, I think we all recognize that our reach is only within the city limits of Marion, and that's very limited. The one in the House of Representatives wants to tax this substance, but not ban it. I've reached out to our state legislators, our local ones. They do not believe either of these bills will pass either body this session. So I've provided you guys with my research and my position paper on this. There are 3 municipalities that I'm aware of that have enacted local bans. But unfortunately, due to the state's lack of action on this, I think it leads to our home rule authority to act. So with that, I would like to invite Emily Peroni, who is the widow of Blake Peroni, and let her tell her story.
Good evening. My name is Emily Peroni, and I stand before you not only as a resident of Marion, but as a grieving widow and a determined advocate. I lost my husband Blake to the effects of kratom, a tragedy that has forever changed my life and the lives of those who knew and loved him. You may be wondering what kratom is. Kratom is an herbal substance derived from the leaves of Mitragynous speciosa, a plant that is native to Southeast Asia. It's sold as a supplement for energy, mood, or opioid withdrawal, but it acts on the brain like opioids such as fentanyl, and withdrawal from it mimics opioid withdrawals. Oftentimes, people are requiring rehab or medications like Suboxone just to come off of it, which is similar to treatment people require to come off of substances like heroin. It can be purchased at gas stations, smoke shops, or through online websites. Kratom is not regulated by the FDA, therefore data is hard to find, but the FDA does have some data and warns Kratom is not approved for any medicinal use. It carries risk of addiction, toxicity, and organ damage. It is not legally marketed as a dietary supplement, but it is widely sold as one. From 2014 to 2019, Poison Control Centers received over 3,400 Kratom-related calls, and those calls are growing each year. In 2017 alone, 36 deaths were linked to Kratom. In 2022, 1.9 million Americans aged 12 and older reported using it. My husband Blake was a vibrant, healthy individual with a promising future. He was a devoted husband, father, son, brother, and friend. Blake was well known and deeply loved in our community. He initially believed, as many do, that Kratom was a safe, natural supplement. The first time he tried Kratom was when the owner of a gas station here in Marion offered Blake Kratom in the form of an energy shot. He told him it was like a 5-hour energy shot, but safer because it was more natural. Unbeknownst to us, this unregulated substance would lead to his untimely death. His loss has left a void that cannot be filled. The pain of losing him is indescribable, and navigating this grief while striving to prevent similar tragedies is a challenge I never anticipated. Kratom is often marketed as a harmless herbal remedy, yet it contains psychoactive compounds that bind to opioid receptors in the brain, producing effects similar to other opioid agonists like heroin and fentanyl. Users have reported severe addiction, withdrawal symptoms, and in some cases, death. As you may be aware, I have started a petition to address the dangers of Kratom. Within just a few hours of the petition being live, one individual shared with me, "I would have never thought of myself to become addicted to anything, but Kratom sneaks up on you and pulls you in so fast. I took Kratom for pain relief after I had surgery. I've taken it for over a year and recently was sold something called 7-OH at the vape shop. It is a Kratom-containing product in a chewable tablet. They advertise it saying, you don't have to take as much, but this is not true. It is so concentrated that it's a whole different beast." She was able to buy this online without an ID and in store without an ID, and states it is way too easy to get a hold of and way too addictive. She continued to say, "I'm so sorry that this happened to you and your husband. I know the mental toll it takes on you, and it's so defeating. Please know that I'm with you. I'm fighting daily to push through the withdrawals, both physical and mental, and I'm so thankful to see someone fighting against a dangerous drug." Many others wrote in as well, but I'm just going to share a few others. One individual reported, "I've been using Kratom for over a year, and it's taken over my life. I cannot function without it, and the withdrawal symptoms are unbearable. I feel trapped and hopeless." Another stated, "I don't know how to get off this stuff. It's been close to 2 years now, and my tolerance is so high. In the beginning, it was great. I only took approximately 6 capsules a day, and I would feel really good the whole day, have a lot of energy and a feeling of well-being. Now I take probably over 100 capsules a day, every single day, just to feel normal. He says when he tries to stop, it feels like his body is going to go into shock. He wakes up in the middle of the night and has to take a handful of capsules just so his body can be at ease. Otherwise, it feels like his soul is going to rip from the flesh." He goes on to say, "This stuff should be illegal and people should know it is insanely addictive. I am tired of being sick from this substance." Healthcare professionals have reported seeing withdrawal symptoms, unpredictable behavior, cardiovascular complications, and even deaths tied to Kratom use. Many express frustration and fear, noting that there are no established protocols for treatment and that Kratom is dangerously under-recognized in medical settings. The concerns surrounding kratom are not isolated. As of May 2025, at least 22 U.S. states have introduced legislation to ban or regulate kratom use. Kratom during the current legislative session due to increasing concerns about its safety and potential for abuse. These proposals range from outright bans to comprehensive regulatory frameworks addressing age restrictions, labeling requirements, and product safety standards. Closer to home, in Illinois, cities like Jerseyville and Alton have already taken proactive steps to ban the sale of kratom and kratom-containing products. Their actions reflect a growing recognition of the risk associated with this substance and the need for local governance to protect residents. I urge the Council to consider implementing an ordinance that bans the sale of kratom and kratom-containing products within our city limits. Such a measure would not only honor the memory of those we've lost, but also safeguard our community from further harm. In closing, I want to emphasize that while federal and state regulations are still evolving, our city has the opportunity to lead by example by taking decisive action against the sale of kratom and kratom-containing products. We can protect our residents and prevent further tragedies. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Emily, first of all, I think you're pretty brave. Blake's mom is here, and you're pretty brave for even being here and telling that story. Please accept our condolences. I'm sorry this happened to Blake. I knew Blake.
Thank you.
And he was a fine person and a very capable person. And I'm sure you're right as far as him being a good dad and husband and son. I'm sorry you lost him, and I'm sorry for that loss. I do have a follow-up question because I thought I understood from a conversation that I had with you, and I want to verify whether this was the case or I misunderstood. My understanding was that when Blake first was offered this substance, that it was given to him for free.
Yes, it was given to him for free. He went in for a Red Bull at a gas station here in Marion, not too far from the junior high, and the gas station owner, it was the owner, and he was like, "Hey, how about you try this instead?" And he told him how great it was, didn't mention any possible dangers of it, and he gave it to him for free.
That of all your testimony, that's the one that gave me the most worry.
Yes.
The hair stood up on the back of my neck. That seems predatory to me.
Yes.
Particularly if it's in proximity to our schools and there's no age checks or anything else. So I didn't hear that in your speech, and so I wanted to make sure that that was still the case. So, and again, I'm not necessarily indicting store owners. Maybe they don't know what this capability of this stuff is. I don't know, but that was very worrisome to me when you told me that. You guys have any questions of Emily before she sits down?
I have some comments. I don't have any questions.
Okay. You want to go ahead and let her have her seat then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay. Like the mayor, I'd seen that stuff advertised for years, you know, and to me it was all just kind of, that's a wannabe, somebody who doesn't want to try and find some other substance somewhere else. They can just buy it at the gas station. It's low dose, probably doesn't work, no big deal. It's probably just a marketing ploy of something to sell some money. So not until this happened, I decided to take a deep dive into it myself and see what everything's about. And as a pharmacist, I think I have a lot of access to a lot of literature that maybe a lot of folks don't. And the literature's shocking, what I read. The one thing that stood out to me right off the bat is the fact that this drug is very unique in that at its low doses, it's a stimulant. So at a small little dose, you get that 5-hour energy high from it. However, at higher doses, and let me preface this by saying, with most any drug that the body uses in an opioid receptor status, the longer that person takes that drug, it requires more of it to do the same thing. So somebody who's taking something for back pain or leg pain, after a year of that, one tablet every 6 hours doesn't work for them anymore. They need 2. And this goes on and on because those things become saturated and it takes more of them to do the job. I think this drug is exactly the same way. And I think actually it's faster than some of those. So the problem with this is that as you go into higher doses, now you start to see the opposite effects start to manifest themselves. You see hallucinations, you see all kinds of different things start happening at the high doses of this medication. So the fact, 1, that it has those kind of powerful effects, and 2, that it can be bought over the, at a gas station with probably, I don't mean to deride anybody, but someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about what the products have the capability of doing, other than that as a cool looking package sitting on the counter, is frightening to me. Especially the fact that, and I don't know this for a fact, but you gotta think that if anybody can go into a gas station. I don't know if there's age restrictions on this product. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I have no idea. But if there's not, and if a kid looks 15 or 16, are they going to question them buying Red Bull or 5-Hour Energy or this drug or anything else? Probably not. So I think, from my standpoint, even though our steps could be small, it is a step. And I think something needs to be done with it, either regulatory, ban, whatever the case may be. But it's a danger sitting there waiting to happen, sitting on the shelves today. So that's my 2 cents.
We've focused thus far on specifically energy drinks and things, but I want to point out that this substance, again, this comes from a leaf, and it comes in a tea form. It comes in can be put in drinks. Some people even, can't remember what the term I read, hot wash it or something like that, stick it in your mouth, chase it with a drink. It can come in all, and each one of those has its own potency effects, incidentally, and how quickly it acts. So part of this effort is to educate the public too. One other piece of information that I found interesting that I want to share, because this to me is very telling. So this is grown predominantly in Southeast Asia. Thailand is a very big producer of it, and it has been, again, I think for maybe hundreds of years this stuff existed. But here's what I found interesting. Kratom was banned in Thailand from 1943. I want you to listen to this carefully. The initial prohibition began in 1943 under this certain act, primarily due to concerns over its use as a substitute for opium, which affected government tax revenues. In 1979, it was classified, again, this is in Thailand, was classified as a Category 5 narcotic under their Narcotic Drugs Act. However, significant legal changes have occurred in recent years. In August 21, Thailand removed kratom from its list of controlled narcotics, effectively decriminalizing its possession and use. Subsequently, in August 22, the Kratom Plant Act was enacted, establishing a legal framework for the cultivation, sale, consumption, and research of kratom leaves. This act aims to encourage economic activity related to kratom. But I find it fascinating for an opioid-producing country to ban it for nearly 80 years because it was affecting their revenues over opioids, opium. So anyway, now with that being said, the ordinance, even as listed on the agenda, I want to make an update to that. And clerk, I want you to strike some things out of the ordinance. Discussions that I've had today with several people, including a medical professional that called me, some comments that I've had from our police officers and subsequent conversations with the city attorney. The ordinance title and body of the ordinance reads banning the possession, sale, and delivery of kratom and derivatives. We're going to strike the word possession. And the reason is that it's going to be very difficult at this stage. We have no tools in the field to test for this at this stage. The comment that was made by the doctor, which was alarming in of itself, and she was arguing for us to strike possession, had no problem with us not selling it. This was her comment, is that the coroners aren't even picking this up yet. I'm not sure what that says in of itself, that she would even make that statement. But the point isn't so much about the coroners as it is that there's just not a testing methodology that's accepted yet to determine this stuff, and nor do we have the tools in the field, I don't believe, to determine what is or isn't kratom. It's easier to identify on a store shelf because it's advertised as such, but if we were to encounter one in a car, I'm not sure that we've got the tools to prosecute that. So clerk, not only in the title of this, but in the body of the ordinance, would we strike anything that has to do with the possession of? But I'll go ahead and make a motion. We can still discuss this, but I think we're supposed to discuss it after a motion in a second to be appropriate. So be my motion to approve ordinance 4041 banning the sale and delivery of kratom and its derivatives within the city.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? Questions? Anybody from the audience want to discuss this any further than we already have? Would you mind coming to the microphone, please?
So when Blake passed away, they did do a toxicology report, and it did show up on his toxicology report. I don't know like exactly what kind of testing and all that goes into that, but it did show up on that. The kratom did.
So maybe they are catching up with us a little bit then.
But there's no testing like a UDS, like a regular urine drug sample. It's not going to show up there. So I understand the struggles with that.
Yes.
There is no lab where we can send samples to get an exact answer back.
Yeah, that would be relative to charging somebody for being under the influence. I'm talking about specifically even encountering it in a car because it comes in so many forms. I'm not sure that we would have at this point the ability to field test for that stuff and make a charge with that. I hope, I see Brendan from the Southern is here. I know this is controversial in some corners. I know that because of the calls that I've gotten. I'm sure the social media presence is mixed as it usually is on stuff. My biggest fear is that, and this goes back to the free and the nearest school thing, is that as parents, we might not even know that our kids or our adult kids are involved in something like that, and that even those that might be paying attention might pass off an empty energy drink as something as innocuous and not that big a deal. And I'm very hopeful, at minimum, that maybe the education effort here, because 6 weeks ago I didn't know this term, and I know it now, and it scares me. I'm very concerned about it. It's killing people, plain and simple, right here. Yes.
So if you ban this here in Marion, and they're still selling it in the surrounding areas, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how that solves the problem.
It has very limited effect.
Go to Heron or somewhere else and buy it and bring it here, since you said there's really no laws or no way, no valid way to say, oh, you're carrying something that is potentially dangerous.
You're 100% right.
Figure out how's that.
Nope, you're 100% right. It's got limited reach. We have limited reach. I don't believe that's a reason not to act and get the word out there about this, personally.
No, I'm just asking, how is that supposed to help if you just go further estimate? And like Chief said, there's no way to measure it or say this is not.
No, but we can keep it from being sold. But you're right, Carmen. You're absolutely right.
So I'm assuming, based on the conversation, this comes in pill form.
Comes in pill form, tea form.
So on
Like
the
I said,
package-
some people even just shove this stuff in their mouth and wash it down. Don't even mix it first, is my understanding. Can't remember the term. Like I said, it was
Drink forms, there's the energy shot form, capsules, pills, chewable tablets, powder.
gummies.
Gummies, all kinds of different forms.
So in whatever form that you buy it, it comes in a package, whether it's a bottle, pill.
Most of the ways that it's listed, they don't give serving suggestions on them, and that's also part of what makes it so dangerous, I think.
Would any of these different forms have it listed in the ingredients? Or are they required to even do that?
Your problem, Doug, is it's not regulated by the FDA. Like a lot of herbal supplements aren't either. So really what's put out there is what their legal teams have said, yeah, we think this is okay. There's no...
So they don't have to declare that's an ingredient
No, you can-
in
no,
this?
They probably will declare it, but there's nothing you can go to say, well, is 10 milligrams enough, 20, 50, 100? There's no federal guideline saying, this is okay, this is not. You know, we look at, you know, what the therapeutic levels are of stuff. There's nothing out there. So it's really a CYA thing on most of these companies of what they think they can get. Because if this company's putting out one worth this, well then this company goes, well, we've got the maximum strength one, we'll put this one out. Well then they see it and go, well no, we've got triple strength, and they'll put this one out. So, and it's just,
So we don't
until
know,
something starts
we
to
don't
happen.
know, we can't tell based on the ingredients what the not dosage,
No.
the amount is, because this one may have, let's just say 10 milligrams.
Yeah, yeah.
And this one in another package may have 20 milligrams.
Right.
And in another package, it may be 50 milligrams.
And here's the other problem. What 10 milligrams does to you
Right,
is completely different what 10 milligrams
Right.
does to him.
right.
Because there's too many things involved in there in your metabolism that
What I
without
thi-
any testing done. you don't
What I
get
think
right.
I heard from the doctor that called me today, and she's an advocate, incidentally, for Kratom. Not a paid one, she's a retired doctor, but she had some good things to say about Kratom. Kratom, not the derivatives of it. The synthetic versions of this apparently is what's causing, in her description, a lot of the problem. As they iterate, they become more and more potent, I think.
Sure.
And so what might be, to your point, 10 milligrams of Kratom might be a completely different thing than the derivative of Kratom, which is why the ordinance reads Kratom or its derivatives, which is all derived from this plant.
I guess where I'm going with this is, you know, we're going to say we're going to ban it, the sale of it in the city. How do we go about doing that? Do we physically have an officer walk in and
Yes.
say this cannot be sold in the city
So
based
let
on
me,
this ordinance?
let me address that. So if we pass this ordinance, I think there must be some vendors here, so I'll say that for their benefit too. My understanding, Wendy, you can jump in, but if we pass this ordinance, city attorney will prepare a letter along with the ordinance that we will serve on the businesses that we think are selling these items, give them a certain amount of notice so that they can purge their inventories of it. And I don't know if you've landed on what that proper notice is yet, Wendy. I'd say it's somewhere from 48 to 96 hours, somewhere along in that range, but I'll let Wendy
I was going to suggest 0 to 12.
Okay. Give them the opportunity, out of fairness, I'm sure it'll catch many of them by surprise. Not all, but some of them. Give them the opportunity to purge that inventory or sell it back, if they can, to their supplier. And then we'll have to circle back after that notice period is passed and ensure that they are not still offering these materials for sale. Did I get that correct? Anything else?
Can I add something to that? And this is just a thought, and maybe I'm off on this, but as to not really fault of any of the establishments that have this for sale currently, this is going to come as a surprise to them. Do we have any thought process? Granted, if they can return it to their wholesalers or whomever, great. But my concern is, what about those that are going to be stuck with an unsaleable product? Now, maybe they've got a shop in Harrisburg or somewhere else that they could offload it to right now, but I'm talking if they don't have that option, do we have any recompense on our side that we can assist with a little of that? Because it's, let's face it, it's dead inventory now to them. So, I know it, I just threw that out there, sorry.
I have a question for you. We need a little bit time to explain these things about the freedom and everything. Because there are a lot of small businesses here, they're selling freedom and stuff, and they impact like really bad for them guys. I agree on that, you guys ban the freedom, but they impact on small businesses like us. We need a little bit of time to understand everything coming on, what's going on and everything. Please give us some time.
You need time to understand what?
What's like freedom? We have to like all together come here, like what's going on, like we don't know, I just see the news and I just come here, oh, they ban the freedom. We are small businesses. We need a little bit of time.
So your position is you had absolutely no idea this stuff was bad?
It's bad. I know it's bad.
Why are you selling it?
It's like everyone's selling it. Every other
Shame on you. You just said you knew it was bad.
It's bad. Everyone's selling it. So I'm just selling like every other, if you go to like every other towns and
I'd say it's 48 hours.
I'll go with that too.
I understand as a business person what you're saying, but if you just admitted that you know this stuff is bad and you're selling it anyway and your sole excuse is everybody's doing it, shame on all of you. You're addicting our people to this stuff out of your gas station. Find something else to sell that ain't killing our people. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yes. Item number 10 on the agenda is Commissioner reports. Who'd like to start tonight?
I'll start, man.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, streets, we're still working on replacing concrete patching repairs out in Summerfield. Doing some drainage work on Water Tower Road, Saluki Courts, and Main Street. Getting ready to do our final round of land pickup, barring there's no more heavy winds coming. So I think the ice storms are over finally. But repairing railings downtown, working on sidewalks on Jefferson Street, assisting cemetery on weed eating. Cemetery, we're trying to keep up with the mowing, but everybody knows we've had a record amount of rain this year, so be patient with us. We'll get it all mowed and trimmed out. So we had 6 burials in the month of April at the cemetery. That's all I have.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Last report, Water Department reports 2 meter pits were repaired, replaced, 3 water leaks were repaired, 4 services were updated, 2 fire hydrants were repaired, and 2 new water taps were done. That's really all I have today.
Mr. Barwick?
Fire department for the month of April, we had 11 fire calls, 13 rescue and EMS calls, 12 hazardous conditions, no fire, calls, 10 service calls, 10 good intent calls, 19 activated alarms for a total of 75. The Marion Police Department, for the month of April, city ordinance violations, there were 365, 235 traffic citations, 51 warrant arrests, 286 incidents reported, 166 traffic accidents, and 1 DUI. Dispatched calls, there were 2,343. There were 1,732 emergency calls, 4,072 non-emergency calls, and 129 ambulance calls. That's all I have.
Mr. Patton?
Treasurer's office has nothing, Mayor.
Okay, I don't have a report. Anything else under miscellaneous to come before the council for the good of the city? Cody?
Homefield Energy should have, letters from Homefield Energy should be hitting this week. Some I know got the letter starting today. Essentially, the rate for energy supply for the coming year, starting in June, will be 11 cents per kilowatt hour. The current rate is 9 cents per kilowatt hour, so we're seeing a 2-penny increase on the rate. However, that increase is still below what Ameren's rate is suspected to be, which is about a penny more than that at 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So, just like everything else, costs continue to rise. Energy costs are not excluded from that, unfortunately. This is year 3 of the 5-year deal that we have with Homefield, and we'll go through this pricing change again next year. We hope to see a decrease at some point with the way things are going. It doesn't seem apparent that that's going to happen. So just wanted folks to know, once they receive that letter, if they want to opt out, they can do so by calling the number or getting online and choosing to opt out. But it's just a reminder to folks that the rate through Homefield is going to be about a penny less than the rate through Ameren. Not a huge savings, but savings nonetheless. So.
Cody, just as a review on that, I want to make sure I told somebody right today, because I'm getting these phone calls, I'm sure you are too. But for these gentlemen's benefit, so the city gets together for the last 3 years. There's 103-ish municipalities, 110.
Actually, since 2011.
Well, since we've been here, this contract is what I meant.
Yes.
But there's 100+ municipalities, including Marion, that basically try to band together and buy large chunks of electricity. I don't know if that's probably not a technical term, a chunk of electricity.
Just supply, energy supply.
Right. So we're trying to get some sort of economy of scale in allowing the Homefield Energies of the world to go out and buy power in bulk on the open market. Ameren, again, I know we say this every year, Ameren no longer produces power. They deliver power. That's why you have a delivery charge on your bill, and then you've got a supply charge on your bill. Some of you say it says Homefield Energy. If you've opted out, it would say Ameren, for example. The last time we went through this, and these energy prices are crushing to everybody. Businesses, our homes are experiencing the same thing. We're all experiencing it.
In 2019, when we started, this rate was 5 cents a kilowatt hour.
That's right.
So we're
literally,
tripling.
that's right. So it's just been crushing. That's the best word to say it. The last time this went renewed and we sent out the notices, I don't know who at Ameren on their call service or whatever, but there seems to be something that says, well, call the city. They're the ones that are negotiated this for you. And they failed to say our rate's higher, but sort of throwing us under the bus. And it causes an enormous amount of confusion, and to the point that sometimes I even wonder if we should even be doing this. I don't know how much we're benefiting people, but we are benefiting people by being in this program, because over long periods of time, it's been shown that the fixed rate that Homefield is able to offer for the duration of the contract is a better rate than the fluctuating one that Ameren changes every 3 months. Is that right? Seasonally, anyway. It can change every 3 months. It certainly changes seasonally. But again, the pat answer to all this, and this is the one thing that needs to get out in the media, if you don't want it, then opt out. take your chances.
The city gets no benefit.
We
from
get
it.
zero benefit except a whole bunch of angry phone calls as to why we're charging for electricity. Well, we do not have nor plan to build our own electric plant, and I hate to use the phrase, it is what it is, but we don't have any control over it. We are trying to help by being in this aggregation, and it stinks, all of it. It really does stink. These rates are crushing, the increases are crushing, and we certainly don't know how to mitigate it any more than anybody else does. So again, if you don't like it, don't understand it, don't want to be in it, then opt out and just but keep in mind, Ameren's just going out on the market and buying energy just like Home Field or any other aggregator is doing. So I just want to be clear about that. And did I explain that correctly? You take probably more of these than I do, but.
And Cody, just to clarify, you will be with Home Field unless you opt out.
Correct. So when the state deregulated the energy supply market back in like 2010, it gave, the legislation gave cities the ability to pass a referendum in order to negotiate supply rates on behalf of the citizens. The city of Marion passed that referendum in 2011, and we've done that ever since. So in 2011, when the citizens voted that in, that became whoever the city picks as its supplier is who every resident has unless they opt out.
Yeah. So if I'm with Ameren right now and I want to go back to Home Field,
you need to call Home Field.
I need to call or wait for the letter.
Correct.
The letter that says you're automatically with
Right.
Home Field unless you opt out.
Right. And so
Yeah.
we are on an annual renewal, a 5-year option, annual renewal.
Right.
We're on year 3 of that. So if you opted out at the beginning of last June, because you didn't like the rate or whatever the situation was, you're back in effective June 1.
Right.
You're back in with Home Field
Just
effective
wanted to
June 1.
clarify
So
that.
everybody gets the letter. The most common phone call I get is, I don't want this anymore. Stop adding me to the list every year. We can't control that.
Yeah.
Maybe you could call Home Field and
Right.
tell them to take you completely out of their system.
Yeah.
We just don't have the ability to do that. So.
And they can call other energy providers too,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
you can
it's just.
you can find your own
Right.
aggregation company. The problem is you're a power of one, not a power of 100+ municipalities and the residents that live there. So.
Cody, I was thinking the last time the Home Field guy was here, they was talking about looking at some solar projects.
Yeah.
But have you heard anything on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't Home Field, it was our aggregation consultant. So they've created a 501c3 not-for-profit organization intended to looking at building those arrays. I sit as the chair of that board, and we are actively, we have 2 active leases in hand. We've applied for interconnection agreements with Ameren. Once we hear back from Ameren on an approval of those, which are taking 6 to 8 months at this point, we will start our first builds. So the idea behind that concept is that we will produce energy, and anybody that is opted in with Home Field will be able to take advantage of that with a bill credit. You won't have to do anything. You will simply pay your Home Field supply rate, and then you will get a discount on your bill based on the energy that our solar arrays produce. I don't expect it to be monumental.
Yeah.
You were talking about one array spread over residents that live in 100 different communities. But if we build enough of these, and the goal is that we have 5 arrays over the next 10 years, we think the average offset on a given month, especially in the summer, could be $30 or $40 per resident, which is pretty substantial when you're in the grand scheme of things. So that's where that's at. We're waiting on an interconnection agreement from.
Thank you. It sounds good.
Also, in addition to that, so is there any update to Illinois Solar for All other than what I can explain?
Illinois Solar for All exists in a couple forms today. So there are community solar companies that solely exist in order for you as a resident to subscribe to the energy created on a solar array. It's something that we did with city facilities. If you remember, it's probably been 3 or 4 months ago at this point. So residents can subscribe to a solar array at 0 cost. It doesn't cost them anything. And the array may be in Creel Springs, the array may be in Belleville. It has to be somewhere within Ameren's territory. But the idea is the energy produced off of that is you as a subscriber can take some of the energy off of that and help offset your electric bill. These companies get credits from Ameren to do that. They get credits from the state to do that. That's where they make their money. So they're willing to pass that savings along to you, a resident, in order to take the tax benefits that come with being in that business. The benefits are greater for folks that are considered low income, and it can offset as much as 50% of their electric bill in any given month. I think they say on average, because winter months obviously around here aren't super good for solar panels, but on average you're going to save about 50%. So community solar has that possibilities now. There's also some solar for all programs to help get solar panels installed on your home if that's what you so choose. You need to contact a solar installer to check on what incentives exist today. But the community solar thing is the number one thing that I think is out there that nowhere near enough people take advantage of.
Yeah, it's, so IllinoisSolarForAll.com? Is it com or org?
So. I think it's .com.
Okay. That is the most compelling thing, especially for low to moderate income folks, because again, all you're doing is signing up. You don't have to attach solar panels to your house. It's portable so long as you move within Ameren's territory.
Your subscription.
Your subscription is portable. Again, it can save up to 50% off of your bill. And basically all you got to do is go to the website, I think, and enter your information to sign up. It's so good to be true, people push back on signing up. They do not believe it. I cannot tell how many times I've said this spiel to people and we get the proverbial side eye because no one believes it. Believe it. Even if you don't think you qualify, go to that website, enter your information. Maybe something's changed in the law or something and you can qualify. It's worth a shot.
Yep.
But man, we have a hard time convincing people to go do that.
And we've even been approached by community solar companies because they know that it seems too good to be true and they can't convince enough people to sign up, so they just don't build these arrays. So that's less and less people taking advantage of that. They've asked us to send a letter out on their behalf, which there's about 15 companies out there that do this, so it's hard for us to decide, hey, you're the one. And maybe if you guys want to go down that road, we can somehow take bids or something. But again, the benefit exists at literally zero cost to every taxpayer.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Chief, you got anything?
I know you probably can't, but I wish we could do something about all the bake shops.
Wendy, you have anything? Lance, Doug, Terrence? Anything else for the good of the city under miscellaneous? Okay, I do not know of a need for a closed or executive session tonight unless you guys do. Hearing no need, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Thank you all.